Hello, traders. Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com with your weekend video newsletter, Sunday, the 6th of August. In this edition, we'll cover the markets which did fade last week. We have mostly bearish indicators with about 5 neutral that we'll cover shortly as we look for a bit more weakness going into Monday trading. While it isn't a guarantee, we are looking for a bit more weakness with a potential test of the 50-day. That would be about 4.5% off of recent highs. All the moving averages are still moving up and to the right. RSI did dip below 50. MACD and stochastics are starting to set up again, with stochastics leading, looking for a turn like it did back in March, which led to the previous leg higher in two sections. So with breadth deteriorating, our main focus will be where these turned. It's a possibility we could see the minus 30% level before we get a valid signal. So let's start the week with a bit of caution and look for direction from institutions to start the week. The same goes for the NASDAQ, the Qs fading back towards 50-day. Notice how nice and straight that 50-day moving average is. If we drop through the 50-day, that would be an obvious bearish signal. We're not anticipating that'll happen at this time. Stochastics is near a level where we could see a turn higher. That would be a bullish signal when it does, similar to what we had back in April that led to this last move higher. While at the same time, the IWM small caps are holding up the best. Looking for this to give us a direction whether we lose the 21-day to start the week or we bounce. RSI is still above 50, stochastics is trying to reset, and MACD has turned. We had a few distribution days last week. Given what we know to be a weaker time of year, August 16th is 10 days away into September 30th, and then we look for the markets to start to rally into year end. Volatility did pick up last week with the VIX closing right near 17 and change. It's possible that we could see this move back up into the 20s. So we're holding on to our hedges in SPXS, this direction 3 times bear inverse fund, which will rise when the S&P falls. We can also use SPXU or SQQQ on the NASDAQ. If weakness persists, we can hedge with this and not change our 401k or IRA on short-term weakness. Intermediate term, we're still very bullish. The 9, 21, 50, and 200-day are all pointing up and to the right, the exact opposite of what we saw in 2022 when the bear market started. It's possible we've seen a pivot high in commodities and the 10-year yield, with the latter fading 3% on Friday. Looking for this to pull back even further is what many of the bond traders were talking about on Friday with Rick Santelli. Any move lower would be considered bullish for stocks and give us reason to think we could see a bounce. So watch yields early in the morning. If you're watching CNBC or Bloomberg, having your first cup of coffee, that would be indications that we could see a bounce in equities. And the same could be said for the US dollar, which did falter a bit at that upper trend line. If this starts to fall back into this descending pattern, that would be bullish for equities as well. A breakout of this pattern, like the recent breakout with the 10-year, would be bearish. So watch commodities, 10-year, and the US dollar for signals early on Monday morning before the market opens. We also want to keep an eye on the CPI, Consumer Price Index, and the CRB Index. Both of these turn lower to start 2022. That gave us bearish signals for the market. This has been rising since November, giving us that signal we were looking for to start the year. With the caveat, of course, Brent crude has been marching higher over the last 6 weeks. We're watching this very closely. Despite this, gasoline's continuous contract did fall markedly as you can see in this weekly time frame, with the gap down on Friday after a pivot on Wednesday. Volume did pick up, so look for gasoline prices to back off a bit despite the rise in crude oil prices. Overall, bonds, currencies, and commodities are giving us neutral signals. We're looking for more follow through this week, which would give us more of a bullish sentiment. So that's yet to be seen. For now, caution is warranted. Most sectors faded last week, with many below their 20 and 50-day moving average. We need to see bases start to form on this pullback over the next several days before we react and change from a cautionary stance to more bullish. Once we see some bases, we'll be able to give you better direction. For now, it's telling you to be cautious. Notice financials are holding on to the 21-day moving average, along with retail and consumer discretionary, thanks to Amazon last week. We also saw some of the international ETFs pulling back a bit. Turkey continues this trend higher, trying to break out above this 36, 37 level, while South American ETFs like Mexico continue this trend higher. Note the 200 period moving average is up and to the right, along with all the other moving averages for the most part. In addition, we do see Ireland trending 921.50 200 day rising up and to the right. Check out your favorite European ETFs if you're trading in Europe. France is higher as well, trending. It's at the 50-day moving average. And India, a lot of production is moving from China to India, expecting this to continue. Higher highs and higher lows. The INDA ETF continues this trend above the 10 EMA. Breaking above this level would lead to higher prices. Look for India to continue higher as it gathers more support from international companies to produce products in India rather than in China. Overall, the sectors and international markets are telling us to be cautious and to look for the US dollar 10-year and commodities to give us direction this week. We have a smaller list of stocks that are set up this week, giving us caution as well. If we do see a follow through in the US dollar, the 10-year, and commodities to the downside, that should help lift more stocks. I am watching some of these stocks in the New America. Added last week was MNSO. That was reviewed in an article on IBD you might want to check out. As the stock looks very strong, looking for a breakout to new highs. With the weekly time frame showing price above the 10 EMA and rising. Some stocks on the IBD 50 from the real estate group look good. We got Arbor Realty Trust bouncing at the 21-day moving average. All the moving averages are above the 200-day, moving up and to the right. Volume picked up. Stochastics is turning, which is a prerequisite. If I'm looking for a long, I am looking for stochastics to be turning from oversold. That would set that criteria along with RSI. So watch the 21-day here. We could see a follow through in Arbor this week. A lot of the pharmaceutical stocks are also trending. This is Amphastar following through. This has been on the watch list in the past. RSI is at 70. Stochastics is turning up, but it is towards the embedded side. So look for other pharmaceutical companies to follow through as well, like AbbVie, which we were watching for a bounce here near the 200-day moving average, fading over the last week, looking for a bounce. That said, many of the travel and leisure stocks look very strong. We had Booking Holdings moving higher on above average volume, breaking out to 52-week highs. Look for follow through in many of these sectors like hotels, airlines, and cruise lines. Most of them had faded last week with other stocks, but we're looking for a bounce at key moving averages with Carnival, Cruise Lines, and Royal Caribbean continuing this consolidation of recent gains, with Royal Caribbean looking the best. RSI needs to turn back up, and we need to see a bullish candle or two to start the week. Stochastics is still fading, so that has an opportunity to turn back up. Note the volume, profit taking into this strength, into one of the more seasonally weaker months of the year. Caterpillar had a nice rally to start the week. On Tuesday, gapping up, fading. Watch how price action retreats back to this potential pullback to breakout zone. If it does find some buyers here, we'd look for a follow through with the weekly chart showing what we're always looking for in bullish setups. We want price to be above a rising 10 EMA and volume to be telling us that institutions are buying in the most recent weeks, all of which says yes at the present time. Looking for a rate of change as it's starting to turn here to follow through. Maybe it takes a couple more days for consolidation. Keep an eye on Caterpillar and John Deere, with the latter coming back to the 21-day moving average, the 50 days crossing up through the 200-day. So while this is fading a bit, this is starting to set up a cycle and potential move higher. Something that we're also looking for on IBM, which tends to rally during this time of year, September through the end of the year. Obviously, it's still August, but this is trending. The weekly looks pretty good on IBM. Above the 10 EMA for the last 6 weeks. After dipping below it 7 weeks ago, it popped back up in June, and volume started picking up, telling you that institutions are starting positions or adding to existing positions. Decker's Outdoor Corp also trending 9/21 50-day. Every time this pulls back to the 9 or 21 day over the last 8 to 10 weeks was bought. So we'll see how this follows through or not this week. I would think it probably does, unless the markets sell off and the dollar, 10-year, and commodities all race higher to start the week. Not the current signal for those three. DoorDash sitting right on support, RSI right at 50. We're looking for stochastics to set up like it did back here in late April, which led to this current leg higher. We could see a bit more fade, maybe back to the 50-day, but this is starting to set up. If you're looking for longer-term swings, look for the setup. Stochastics is almost there, and we did have a little distribution, so maybe a couple more days down to the 50-day. Having noted a lot of advertising on YouTube for DoorDash that's been active over the last 4 to 6 weeks. You too can start your own business and start delivering food, so says the commercial on YouTube. DraftKings, higher highs, higher lows, 9/21, 50, 200-day are all moving higher up and to the right. RSI is launching. We had above average volume on Friday. Stochastics and MACD appear to be turning. This looks like a good opportunity on the long side for DraftKings after earnings. And even though the company is operating at a loss, it beat with a loss of 17 cents versus the estimated loss of 24 cents. Beating expectations by 15%, while revenue grew 87.68% on a year-over-year basis. 87.68%. I'd say with the trend and earnings with year-over-year revenue growth, this looks like a good follow-through. Now, that said, it all depends on the indices because most stocks will follow the index. If we're moving lower, then just hesitate and wait for your best opportunity to buy something like DraftKings. Something that I'll be watching very closely. Fortress Aviation, this has been on the IBD 50 for, I don't know, about 8 to 10 weeks. The company reported earnings for the second quarter ending 2023 with a beat of almost 100%, 28 cents estimated versus 46 cents. Company beating consensus estimates by 64%, while revenue grew 54.19%. Fortress Aviation owns and maintains commercial jet engines with a focus on proprietary products for the aviation industry. Do note prices pushing off the 21-day, having consolidated there over the last week. RSI is rising, volume increasing, MACD and stochastics turning. I would say this is a pretty good setup given the current situation, off of its latest report on July 26. Fluence Energy, been on the IBD 50 for a few weeks now. Back above the 21-day, looking for a follow-through. 9/21/50, 200-day all pointing up into the right. Volume picking up on Thursday, Friday. Looking for stochastics to reset and turn higher along with MACD. We noted the strength in Interactive Brokers to start the week. Friday looks like a little profit taking, but look at the volume in the previous week. That's institutions. despite the fact stochastics is a bit overbought. So watch for a little bit more consolidation here near this breakout level for interactive brokers in the short term. International Seaways, we'll be watching this one. This is fairly new. I've never seen this on the IBD 50 before. Building a right side of a cup, volume picking up over the last few weeks. Marine transportation, with the company reporting this week on August 9th, we'll get a little bit better understanding of the company's earnings, with the previous quarter showing revenue growth of 182.9%, beating estimates by 11.5%. Watch International Seaways earnings this week. Might be a nice setup into the next quarter. Semiconductors actually put in a pretty good performance last week. They didn't fall off, showed some relative strength. Lattice Semiconductor, range bound, needs to break out above the highs, push through 100. RSI is showing strength of trend is starting to improve. MACD has crossed, stochastics rising. Volume starting to pick up, could look a little better. Watch for semiconductors this week. Hopefully we can get a follow through in stocks like Intel that bounced at the 21-day, looking for a move towards the 40 strike. I have the January 40 calls, looking for that to continue. Stochastics looks like it could turn in the near term. With the company's recent report on July 27th, earnings were 10 cents per share versus an estimated loss of 4 cents. The company beat by 1,100%, while revenue fell 15.48% for the same quarter a year ago. First quarterly profit in several quarters. AMD held up fairly well as on Thursday, Friday. Look for a bounce. Looking for a breakout above 122 this week. With the company reporting earnings on August 1st, Monday, revenue fell 18% and missed expectations by 3.4%. So we'll look for AMD to give us a signal this week, along with NVIDIA, which is reluctant to pull back below the 50-day moving average. It's been holding on to the 21-day as institutions upgraded the stock on the last report, with the company reporting again on August 23rd after the close. Last time around, the company beat by 21.65%, while revenue fell 13%, with many analysts upgrading the stock with average price targets around 450 to 500. Micron also looked fairly strong, showing relative strength last week. Look at the volume. That's institutions. MACD turned up. Bulls have the control. Stochastics backing off a little bit, but could turn higher. Watch RSI as well. Micron looking pretty strong, along with on semiconductor. Neutral signals on stochastics, MACD, and RSI for now. Along with strength that we saw last week in SMCI, it reports after the close on Tuesday, with last quarter the company missing consensus estimates by 3%, similar to AMD, yet the stock continued to move higher. It gapped up on the last report and followed through. Still, it reported earnings of $1.42 per share. Estimated was $1.47, so it missed by a tiny margin, 3%, yet the stock continues to trend higher. Look at the volume. That's institutions affirming that they think this is going much higher in the months to come. A bit extended now, but look at the volume. That's institutions. Supermicro, of course, has been getting a lot of buzz about its server technology and green computing. It develops and provides high-performance server solutions based on modular and open standard architecture. That's working together with AI, setting up servers that are already ready for AI, rather than a company having to build it by themselves. Modine Manufacturing, also a very bullish-looking chart, showing relative strength. When the markets were pulling back, this stock was moving higher on higher volume. That's telling you institutions are buying, no matter the weakness that amateur investors are concerned about at the present time. This stock is rallying. In its most recent report, Modine beat expectations by 80.85%, with revenue growing 15% on a year-over-year basis. The company manufactures thermal management systems and components, bringing heating and cooling technology and solutions to diversified markets. With all of that heat that we've seen recently, there's a lot of stocks like Comfort They got a lot of press over the last few weeks. Look for these AC related names, air conditioning manufacturers, installers, etc. With a lot of these related names following through last week, like Builders First Source, trending above its 9, 21, 50 day and 200 day up and to the right, with price action above its rising 10 EMA since late November. But the buying suggests institutions are still accumulating shares with no hint of a stall or distribution just yet. With other companies from the same industry group, like Installed Building Products, showing strength when the markets were moving lower, continues this trend higher. You can see the volume, MACD and stochastics, showing the bulls are in control. RSI is above 70. Look for these building and construction products names to continue higher, along with the builders like Pulte Homes, which showed very nice strength last week when the markets were pulling back. Trend, look at the 9, 21, 50, and 200 day. They're almost straight lines. As inventory will not be satisfied, lack of new homes for I would think another few quarters. That said, watch price action. Price right now is bullish, not falling below its 21-day moving average since moving above back in November. KB Homes, same pattern. Lennar Homes with a little fade, but above the 50 days, starting to turn back up. Stochastics is set up. This is probably a better setup. Stochastics set up looking for a follow through. Look at the last time this happened in May and the leg higher that followed. Builders First Source, by example, beat expectations by 31.86%, reporting earnings of $3.89 per share on revenue of $4.53 billion. While the estimate was for $2.69, so they beat by 31%, $1.20. So look for these building and construction related names to move higher as the builders continue to show they're trying to satisfy the inventory problem that was mentioned earlier in the year. Okay, traders, that's going to do it for me. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com, August the 6th, 2023. With your weekend video newsletter. Check out the rest of the names on the list down here, and remember to be a bit more cautious this week as we wait for the institutions to tell us what they plan on doing. I should have an update from Brent over at Spot Gamma later tonight, so look for an update in the Gamma channel late on Sunday. Have a great weekend, what's left of it. Take care, and we'll see you in the morning. Ciao.